Once again, ladies and gentlemen, once again, let me say good morning to all. Let me welcome you to Mount Neboh. This is an exciting day to have you as our special guest. We thank God for our governor who is here. We thank God for all of the elected officials, and I just want to read the names of those who are present. We have Congressman Charlie Rangel, who is going to come immediately after I'm done. Congressman Gregory Meeks, Congressman Meeks is not here. Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney, Public Advocate Letitia James, our Comptroller Scott Stringer, Senator Adriano Espaillat, Assemblyman Keith Wright, Assemblyman Danny Farrell, Congresswoman Nadia Vasquez. Nydia, I'm sorry. I do apologize. Assemblyman Michael Blake, Assembly Member Maritza Davila. All right, I'm about to work on that. Assemblyman Lenars. All right, Assemblyman Walter Mosley, Assemblyman Victor Pichardo. All right. Assemblyman Robert Rodriguez, Assembly Member Latrice Walker, our Borough President here in Harlem, Gail Brewer, Council Member Inez Dickens, Council Member Vanessa Gibson, and Senator Kevin Parker. We're glad to have all of you here, and now we'd like to bring on our Senior Congressman Charlie Rangel. Let's give him a hand.
Pastor, coming from Harlem, I always knew the power of Mount Neboh.
Yes.
But I'm telling you, this morning, I haven't seen so much political power organized in any place that I've been around a long time. Let me thank you so much, Pastor, for recognizing that you don't have to wait until you die to try to get into heaven. There's so many things that we can do for our young people, our country, for the vision that we have. And we in public life are so blessed that we have a governor that's prepared to take on Goliath. And it's got to take all of us, not just those of us that hold public office. But the message that the governor is sending out there today is one that makes us so proud to be New Yorkers, because soon, and I hope very soon, people would say, why haven't we done this before? Millions of young people, so talented, have found themselves led into a prison situation and released on our streets. And as a former prosecutor, no mother has ever said what their son has done right. They wonder, why didn't we get help? You got to listen to a program today that not only leans out to compassion of how human beings should be treated and not caged, but in those situations where you can't prevent it, you got to learn that it's not going to be just bars and confinement and punishment, but something that would allow them to be restored to what God wanted them to be, a productive human being. And then when they're out and the gates are closed and open up and the prison bars are removed, mentally and intellectually, those bars will definitely be removed as they are restored to a place in society without the stigma. Governor, it just makes so much sense. But even for conservatives, even for those that are wondering about how much would it cost, the governor's going to give you a pencil and paper to just go home and find out how much does it cost us to do the wrong thing and how free we will be in the budget and in our conscience for doing the right thing. On behalf of everyone that's elected, everyone that have served, he has raised the standard of public service. I am so proud to be able to present to you the leader of the Empire State of our country.
Well, thank you very much. First, to be with the Congressman is a special treat. It always is. We grew up together. I've watched him. I've always been inspired by him. I worked with him in Washington, and he made mountains move in Washington. And what we're talking about today, I learned much of it from him. And he was a national spokesperson year after year after year, and it's only fitting that New York brings that dream true. Congressman Rangel, pleasure to be with you. To Reverend Dr. Green, I thank him once again for inviting me home. Mount Neboh is a great church. It does great work, and it is also a perfect venue to discuss this initiative because it works on every level. This makes economic sense. It makes human sense. People understand it. People get it. It's long overdue. It's just time to do it. And what you see behind me are federal officials, state officials, local officials who get it, and say it's time to stop nibbling at the edges with all these little programs and these little approaches. Let's go right at the heart of the problem. And this is the heart of the problem. New York is known to be bold. Let's be bold. This is a big problem. It takes a big solution. And you have to change the way people think and change the mentality. Failing schools and perpetuating this whole failing bureaucracy, poor communities basically abandoned by society, no help, no assistance, and then we're surprised when the young people get into trouble, and then our answer is put them into a prison for $50,000 a year, lock the cage, throw away the key, no services, no education, no vocational help, and then release them and think somehow they're going to be in a better position than they went in. It is insanity, societal insanity, and it has gone on for too long. And we have to change the mentality. It's not going to be easy. As I mentioned upstairs, they're going to argue, well, this is more expensive to do it this way. Short term, it's more expensive. Long term, it's actually more cost effective. And the congressman is exactly right. I challenge the conservatives to add up the cost of paying for the problem versus the cost of preventing the problem and see which is actually going to be cheaper. Not to mention the human cost. And how many people we lose, and fathers we lose, and brothers we lose, and role models we lose. And the role models we're actually perpetuating. And then we wonder why young person after young person goes down that track. This year is the year to make this shift. This state is the state to do it. This legislature is the legislature that can make it happen. With the support of our local officials, it's going to start this year. It's New York. It's the right priorities. We know it's the right priorities. We have a 7-point plan that's going to get us there. With that, let me turn it over to our great City Controller, Scott Stringer.
Thank you. Thank you. I actually thought this day would never come. Back when I was a legislator in the 1990s, during the budget negotiations, the fight was always about how Republicans can bring prisons to their districts in upstate New York. The formula was very simple. They could build a prison in 18 months. They could take black and brown children from downstate, ship them upstate. It was never about reducing crime. It was about actually creating economic opportunity around a prison. They believed that if you built a prison, you could build a community around the prison. And that has been the failed logic of our criminal justice system for decades. Today, that changes. We recognize now that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, both in terms of the human being and also the economic, realistic view of how we feed the prison industrial complex. If we build schools and after-school programs and services for kids, we will save money, New York City will save money, and we'll build a fair and just society. To smash this complex going into this Albany session is a tremendous credit to Governor Cuomo. And I just want to remind people, this is not a new philosophy or a new Cuomo initiative. He's the governor that has reduced prisons in this state. He reversed a pattern and practice that was just destroying our kids. So I want to thank you on behalf of our children, on behalf of our city. You have shown leadership on this issue, and you're going to make this country better for this initiative. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Oh, and
Go ahead. You good.
ladies and gentlemen, the public advocate, Letitia James.
Thank you, Controller. We come to church every Sunday to heal our souls. We come to church every Sunday praying for a miracle. And yes, there are some who come to church praying for Powerball. There's no question about it. But we've come here today, again, under the leadership of Reverend Green, who is chairperson of Impact, an organization of religious leaders all throughout the city of New York who are focused on social and economic power. And I thank Reverend Green for hosting us here today and for all that he is doing. And of course, I want to thank Governor Cuomo for all that he is doing because the proposals he has announced today are exactly the kind of steps we need to be taking to make sure that there is justice in our criminal justice system. Not justice for some, but justice for all. And there is no denying the fact that we have a problem with mass incarceration in the United States today. And there's also no denying that unless we act boldly, as he has done today, to address the problems from all angles, that problem will continue. And that's what makes the governor's plan so important. It's comprehensive, and it tackles the issue of justice and a lack of opportunity in multiple ways. From helping troubled at-risk youth, to individuals who seek to find a job, and those who unfortunately are on our corners each and every night, who find themselves falling into the criminal justice because of the lack of opportunities. We really have a very wonderful plan. And so it's really critically important that we help people in prison get an education and skills that will help them find a job and live responsibly once they are released, so they can become responsible citizens upon their release and add to the tax rolls. And in addition to actually helping them find those jobs and pushing back against discrimination once they have served their time. All of these things are important steps forward for New York. And I want to applaud Governor Cuomo for making that a priority in 2016. Thanks to the governor's leadership, we are going to continue moving forward in New York by reforming the criminal justice system and making a real difference in New York State, in New York City, and in this community. And now to conclude, the great Reverend Green.
We want to thank all of our elected officials who've come today to support this initiative. Let's give our governor another hand. We will allow anyone from the media, press, those of you who have questions you may want to direct to the governor at this time, please do so and do so respectfully.
Oh, I like this. I'm going to bring the Reverend with me everywhere I go. Do so, but do so respectfully, as Reverend Green says. Yes.
Hi, Christine Mershon, New York Post. I have two questions. So my first question is, what do you think of Mayor de Blasio's reappointing judges that set low bail for violent offenders, such as Judge Noah Johnson?
We're going to have a bail. I don't want to comment on the specific case that you referred to, but we're going to have a bail reform proposal that we have in the state of the state because I think we can make the bail system better. I think it actually makes it harder for people who should be out on bail to be out on bail, and it actually releases some people who shouldn't be. So we'll have a proposal in a couple of days.
Okay, thank you. And my second question is regarding the current homeless crisis. Will the state, or is the state considering taking over city facilities, city social services?
Yeah, let me say this on the homeless. There are some issues. We all deal with very important, very complicated issues. And then there are some issues that you feel here as much as here. The issue we're talking about today is an issue of the heart as much as an issue of the head. It's wrong to put people in cages like animals and waste young lives. That's from here. walk through a few state prisons. Talk to some of the people in state prisons, and you'll feel it here. The homeless is the same thing. I've spoken to numerous elected officials who are very concerned about the homeless problem as elected officials. But you know, even more, they're concerned here. They all say the same thing. This is wrong, it's gone on too long, it's getting worse. And we're in Mount Neboh today. Everything we read about, almost every religion, comes back to the same point. Show compassion, show community, help one another. We're now in the winter, we have freezing temperatures, we have people who are on the streets, who don't want to go to a shelter system because the shelter system is dangerous and dirty. And it is literally a matter of public safety. And it is just societally still, there's a right and wrong, and it is the wrong thing to do. We are better than this as New Yorkers. New Yorkers are not the people who are going to walk by and leave someone on the street. So the state will have a plan that we're going to be announcing at the State of the State. Any tough questions for any of my colleagues, please feel free to go ahead.
On the criminal justice initiatives, you talked a little bit about this is more expensive in the short term but cheaper in the long term. Do you have an actual dollar figure on how much you think all of this will cost?
We have estimates, and there are studies numerous studies that have estimates. It depends on how many people you run through the model, obviously. But the additional cost is incremental on the prevention side. Not just a school, a community school that has services, more money for reentry, et cetera. The substantial cost is all prison and incarceration, and that entire prison complex that we have built. And Controller Stringer was exactly right. You know, he was in the State Assembly before he became controller. Much of the mentality of the prisons was that they were economic development in upstate New York. Upstate New York was losing jobs. Prisons were good jobs. Prison construction, prison maintenance, prison correction officers, and that's the mentality that we have to change.
So what are the estimates?
I can get you the actual estimates depending on, we have a number of models that I can get you.
All right, folks.
Okay?
Thanks a lot.
Reforms to announce on bail. Does that have anything to do with drug diversion programs and the pitch that Mayor de Blasio made last fall concerning state judges?
You'll have to wait till Wednesday. I have to have a little news left for Wednesday. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Governor.